Hi, I'm Kathryn Cripps. I am an asset manager at Knight Frank, and I'm joined today by Penny Cameron, who is a development director at Stanhope. She's got 20 years experience in the market and a mother and a great role model. So Penny, would love to hear how you got into property.
Thank you, Kathryn. And here we are with a lovely afternoon tea, which I'm looking forward to eating later.
Yes. Me too.
Yeah. So I got into property when I was 16. My father was in the property industry. He was a building surveyor, and he organised some work experience for me at 16 years old. And I went along to a firm of building surveyors, and it was just all a little bit on the grubby side for me and not very exciting. But they did offer me a day at the very end with the agency team, and they went out for lunch, and I thought, this is what I want to do, basically. So I went and did a land economy degree and graduated in the early 90s in the depths of the recession, where there were no jobs to be had, but I did manage to find a job in a property team of one of the insolvency practitioners. And so that's how my journey began. And I suppose working in insolvency, you're really dealing with the assets that are no longer viable and businesses that are no longer viable, so you're having to reinvent them. And that was the start of my career in development. And I went from there to a residential developer, and then moved on to work for Hammerson, and then on to Stanhope. And so my career has kind of moved from pure residential through to residential as part of something else, and sort of mixed use development, which has been really interesting, and kind of moving through how the market in London has moved, and how we now look at places rather than just buildings.
And you went and had a couple of children in that period as well.
I did, yes, over time. So yeah, very much a career that kind of ebbed and flowed and plateaued and then went up and sometimes down. And I think the industry it's moved on hugely certainly since I joined. There were very few women in senior roles when I joined the property industry, and especially those with children virtually wouldn't exist. So it's not easy, and I don't think it is even now, but it's definitely getting better, and I think you have to be patient. And hopefully now I'm coming out the other side, and they're growing up, so a little bit more time for me now.
It is always important, isn't it, to remember that your career doesn't take this sort of trajectory like that, especially when you go off and have children, and it does, as you suggest, your graph was maybe a little bit more like this.
It is.
To reach where you are today.
Yeah, although I'm not sure that's really how it should be, but yes, you definitely have to be prepared to be a bit more flexible and just find things that work for you at the time. I had to, over the course of my career, I've had to prioritise different things at different times, and you have to adapt to suit that.
Yeah. So you arrived here on the Elizabeth line.
I did. It's the first time. It opened yesterday. I didn't take any pictures. I was looking for all the people in the purple t-shirts taking photographs.
Exactly. We're 7 minutes from there, I think, aren't we?
I came from Tottenham Court Road, and yes, it was super quick. And really smooth, very, very easy. And I saw all the people with their cases obviously heading off to Heathrow, because now it's so quick to get out to Heathrow, and if you wanted to get out to Canary Wharf as well. So it's going to make a huge difference for London, but especially the city and this area of Liverpool Street.
And we keep hearing about people moving from outside London back in, because probably a year ago we heard a lot about people moving out, from London, out of London, and then there's sort of the boomerang, people who are moving back in, and the resurgence of the city. Is that something you're finding?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of, and possibly there still are, a lot of knee-jerk reactions, and certainly when we were locked down in COVID, I think everyone was sitting at home, and suddenly gardens and outdoor space became so much more important, and there was an awful lot of people decided they didn't need to be in town anymore, and they didn't want to be in the city. I think a lot of those people are now possibly reevaluating their moves, and maybe not moving everything back in, but definitely looking to have a base in the city, and appreciating that an hour commute is still quite a lot of 2 hours of your day. It's a lot of time. But I think more importantly, it's not just the commute to work; it's also missing out on on all the things that we love about cities and London, and we were locked down, none of those things existed, you couldn't do them, so we perhaps didn't miss them. Whereas now everything's back to normal. People want to meet their friends, they want to go to great restaurants, they want to go to galleries and museums, theatres, and that's all here on your doorstep. And if you can live in the heart of it, why wouldn't you? The Elizabeth line's fantastic for getting you around, and you can get to the West End easily from the city. So yeah,
it might even accelerate that trend a little bit more, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe.
And because historically this city has been all about offices, hasn't it, and workers and men in suits, but that's changing quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you look around now, and certainly, I came up out of Liverpool Street today, and the city's buzzing. It's full of people, and really, really alive and vibrant. And in years gone by, it wasn't that way. It was very much all about offices, and there was maybe somewhere to buy a sandwich, but certainly going out for dinner was quite tricky, and on a weekend nothing was open. And that's completely changed now. The city is a really buzzy place to be. And actually I find, I work over in the West End and I come over here, and often the city is busier. There is more life here at the moment. I think because the tourists perhaps haven't quite come back in the same way yet to the West End. So
yeah, I would say I've got a bit of a West End bias. Spent a lot of time working in the West End market, and then I've come here today to Bishopsgate Plaza, and it just feels very residential, very warm, very calm. Yeah, almost like what would have been a lovely West End building.
It's very much, the city really is. It is alive, and I think, in the past it was very, very, well, it still is very unusual to find a residential building in the City of London. You don't get many apartments in the heart of the City of London. So here at One Bishopsgate Plaza, it's very unique. But there is definitely more. There are more people living here. There are different industries here. There are more creative industries here. You have Spitalfields and Shoreditch, literally just a stone's throw away, with all the vibrancy that comes with it. And so the city is it is changing. It's evolving into a really cool place to be, and a fun place to be.
So if this, somewhere like here is the future of, residential and the way that we live and the amenities, how do you go about starting a development like this?
So I think every development is very different, and you really need to look at where it is first, and sort of start from the ground and start from the what you have before you've even laid a brick, as it were. So here in the city, this One Bishopsgate Plaza it's a fantastic project to have been involved in. We were brought in by our client UOL, who are one of the leading property companies in Singapore, and they own the Pan Pacific group of hotels. They've been looking for some time to bring Pan Pacific into London, into Europe, and they found this opportunity for a hotel and private apartments above. They approached Stanhope because obviously Singapore is a long way away to try and deliver a building of this scale, and so Stanhope helped deliver that. So we delivered the hotel, the apartments, and there are offices and retail and restaurants also around the public square, and it's quite unusual even to have the public plaza and that open space at the front of the building. And so really we were given a great sort of framework to work within, and we had a fantastic brand in Pan Pacific, which the Singaporean culture of hospitality is just, you don't find that in London. So for me, when I was developing the residential product, it was a fantastic base to work from. And we sit on top of the hotel, 160 apartments. We have the most amazing views all around, 360 around London, but we have that beautiful hotel, that sort of calm environment that you were talking about when you came in, that to work from and provide all those great amenities for our residents.
So it really feels like people are buying into a lifestyle here.
Yeah, definitely. I think people people live much, far beyond the four walls of their apartment when they move in here, because you have the swimming pool, beautiful swimming pool overlooking the plaza with the gym and the spa. You have this great space here at level 20, which is for residents only. So if you're working from home, you can come and take a meeting room, or you can just sit here. It's always very nice and quiet, or maybe entertain friends at the bar here. The concierge can order you room service, so we're having afternoon tea from the hotel up here at level 20, but if we were lucky enough to have a flat, we could be having it in our living room. So I think people they really love that sort of lifestyle of sort of building living and the sociable side that comes with it. And it's fantastic, we have a waiting list of people who want to rent here. And we have people who've rented here who've then gone on to buy, people who've gone on to buy another apartment for their family because they love living here, and so their children want to live here as well. So it really is, it's a sort of proven product in the fact that the people love the experience of living in the building.
I must say I did find it very peaceful. I did walk into the pool area and think, wouldn't mind spending a day in the pool here.
Well, it's bizarre because you come out of Liverpool Street and you're in the city and it's very busy, and you walk, as soon as you walk through the front door of the hotel, it's very calming and very quiet, and the doorman knows your name, always a lovely welcome, it feels so safe and secure. And then you come up here and you're almost floating above it, aren't you? You can kind of see all the red buses driving around, but it's just as though you're sort of, it's like a film set below you. I think it's a fantastic experience.
So these cakes that look amazing, have you had an opportunity to eat here yet?
I haven't had the afternoon tea yet. I mean, they're absolutely beautiful, aren't they? They're made by Cherish Findon, who's the executive chef at the pastry. But I have eaten in the restaurant, and the restaurant, it's Singaporean food, and which I love anyway. And it's so unusual in London to be able to experience really authentic Singaporean food, and it's fantastic. It's really good. It's quite messy and it's quite spicy, but it's fantastic. It's really good. Yeah, the hotel's doing, it's outperformed expectations in the first year. It's doing really well, and they've just got their 5-star rating from Forbes magazine, so it's a really special place.
Yeah. So the property industry seems to have really defied expectations in the last 2 years. It's just been booming, hasn't it, despite all this political and economic uncertainty. And now with interest rates going up, what do you see? What's your personal opinion on where the market's going?
It's like the $1 million question, isn't it? Exactly. I wish I had a crystal ball. I mean, there's been so much uncertainty over the last 2-3 years, and residential property prices in the UK have most definitely held their own and have really outperformed expectations, I think. And I think the fundamentals are still there, that we live on an island. The stock of property, supply of property is constrained. Demand is still high. I read the latest Knight Frank survey that 38% of people are considering a move in the next year or two, which is a phenomenal number of people looking to move. So all those fundamentals are still there, but obviously it's very difficult going forward to predict what might happen. We've got the global economy, we've got wars, we've got cost of living crisis. So there's a lot going on, but I think that the fundamentals of property, especially London property, being a safe haven and a safe place for your investment is that's still there, and I think that's still proven. So I think yes, in the immediate short term, it's very difficult to predict, but I think that sort of long-term stability of London property is definitely is still there, and I think that is always going to be an underlying factor for the market. So I think it's difficult to say, yes, I think the market's going to, prices are going to rise or fall, but I think, in long term, I think London's a great place to invest.
Yeah, strong fundamentals.
Strong fundamentals.
So would you say it's a lot of global demand or mostly actually UK, and a bit more local demand?
I think, well, I mean, this project as an example, actually our buyers at the moment, we have buyers from all over the world, but all our buyers at the moment are coming, they're based in the UK, they're based in London, and they're often living in London. As I said, a lot of our buyers at the moment are already renting in the building. So there's a real cross-section. But London's a global city, and that's one of the fantastic draws of it, isn't it?
And I'm most intrigued to know if you've got a tip for those who are listening.
A tip
that people could take away.
Takeaway tip. So I would say my tip is always to have a nice cold bottle of wine in the fridge, because it doesn't matter what the day throws at you, whether it's work or children or just general life. That's probably my tip.
I like that. That's brilliant.